Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I have 12:02, so I think we'll go ahead and get started this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. We had quite a large group that signed up, and people seem to be entering pretty quickly here. So hopefully everyone will be able to join us. I am Eileen Doherty, and I am the director of the Colorado Gerontological Society. And I'd like to thank you all again, as I said earlier, for joining us. We have been doing this series on aging in place for an extended period of time now. We are going to be also offering some additional work in the area of aging in place, and I'll talk about that in a little while. So today our subject is to basically talk about living alone in your own home with a support system. So as you can see, this gentleman looks kind of like he is relaxing a bit, has a cup of coffee or tea, ice water, whatever, and he is reading a book and just kind of looks very content with himself in his chair. So before we start this afternoon, one of the things that most of you probably know is that much of our work for the Gerontological Society is funded by grants. And so the grants and the reporting that we are always asked to do specifically looks at a lot of different information. And one of the things we would like to ask you to do this afternoon is to take a few minutes and to answer this poll. So if we could go ahead and launch the poll and you could all participate, that would be absolutely wonderful, because that gives us information that we need. We just actually are submitting today another grant proposal to the Colorado Health Foundation, which has funded this particular project or part of the project. And we hope to be able to continue these sessions as well into the future. So clearly, if you could help us fill out the poll, that would be great. So Lena, if you have not yet, can you launch the poll? I will give everyone about another minute or so to finish the poll, and then we will proceed with the formal presentation. So let's go ahead and get started with the rest of the presentation. Thank you for completing that. If everyone hasn't had a chance to complete it, we can leave it open for another minute or two. So let's start out talking about what is a social support system. So a social support system is basically a network of people. And those people can be friends, they could be family, they can be peers. There's someone that we turn to as an individual for emotional and or practical support. And as you can see from the diagram on the right, one of the things in terms of the social support system is that you, the individual, are the most important piece of this. So we have you as the big, prominent, if you will, person in the social support system. And then we have around you family and friends. And then we have neighbors and other longtime supporters or individuals that you interact with. And then as we go out the circle, we include organizations and institutions. And then as we go out beyond that, we look more to the formal system of the social supports, and that is the health and social care professionals. We are not going to be spending particularly any time on the green circle or on the yellow circle. Today's presentation is really going to focus much more on the red, the orange, and the blue. So when we say that we're looking at social supports, what are some of the different types of tangibles or types of supports? So there are 4 different types that seem to be pretty frequently identified in the literature. The first one that we might think about is tangible support. So this is things that people give you. That could be they help you buy your groceries. It could be that they give you financial assistance. They give you some kinds of services. They buy things, but they're basically doing things for you. Or in a social support system, it really needs to be a two-way street. So you are buying something or doing something tangible for them. Could be making cinnamon rolls. It could be having a cup of tea. The second type of social support then is information. And what we all know is that information is power. Information is what allows us oftentimes to feel in control, even if the information we have is not necessarily positive or it's something we didn't want to hear. If we have the information by design, that usually means that we are in control of the situation. Emotional support is the third type. And this is basically where someone comes to you and they are important for you. They care about you. They tell you they care about you. You care about them as well. And so there is usually a mutual respect and a mutual relationship of caring between the two parties. And then the last one that is sometimes identified is invisible support. And this is where people help you without you necessarily being aware of it. And this could be something like someone sends you a message, or they might just be thinking about you, or they might be talking to your friends and relatives and encouraging them to become involved. Recently, I had a situation where a sister called up some nieces and nephews and said, you know, your father's birthday is coming up. You should probably do something special. Social support is really important because what it means is that you have friends and other people, including your family members, that you can turn to when you need something. If there's a crisis in your life, it basically gives you somebody that you can work with. It gives you the ability to bounce things off, to come up with solutions, to look at the pros and cons. It's someone where you are able, if you will, to work together to feel that you can turn to. Social support also enhances quality of life. And there is a lot of literature that talks about the fact that social supports really do help you get through difficult times in your life, whatever that might be. So social support really helps us to cope. Life is full of setbacks. Life is full of problems. But one of the ways that we are able to manage that is through our social support systems. It's through our social support systems that we get feedback about our own self-esteem. So if I am doing this lecture and you all have your cameras off, I'm not getting a lot of feedback about whether or not you're enjoying this, whether you're engaged, whether you're doing 3 other things, whether you just turned it on because you wanted some noise in the background. If you have your camera on and I can see you and you are nodding, you are smiling, it looks like you are engaged, that gives feedback to me to basically say, she's doing a good job. Or if you frown because I made a statement and you didn't like it, that gives me additional feedback about whether or not I'm hitting the mark in terms of the information that you were hoping to receive as part of this program this afternoon. People who have social support systems also tend to report that their stress level is lower. And so again, one of the things that we know as people who work in the field of aging is that stress, whether it happens in the later years or earlier in your life, is one of the things that often contributes to health issues later in life. So the less stress or the lower we can make our stress level, theoretically, the healthier we will be. Now, a healthy support system usually doesn't just have one person. And this support system basically provides us with a lot of different things. So in this particular graphic, a support system is where we go when we feel a need for love, whether that is an expressed need in the moment or whether it is something that has grown over time. But love is an extremely important part of any social system. And it doesn't have to be love for a spouse or for other family. It could be neighbors. It could be love of your pets. Anything that provides that type of very emotional bond. Social systems also provide us the opportunity to laugh. And laughing has been studied time and time again, that contributes to positive self-esteem. It contributes to self-worth. It is a big stress reliever. So having someone that you can laugh with and laughing is part of, again, a healthy support system. A support system also provides us with warmth. And again, that's a little bit different than love. Warmth in this instance means, do we feel warm and fuzzy? Do we feel comfortable with that person? Are we at ease with them? Or are we on our heightened scrutiny or stress level all the time? Do we always have to watch every word that we say? Or is it someone who makes us feel good? Another part of a healthy support system is having somebody who helps me to learn. And again, learning can be very simple. We don't always think about learning as what we learned in grade school or high school or college. Learning could be, I learned a new word today. I learned something in the newspaper. I heard something on the radio. Somebody told me a story that I had not thought about, that concept or that thought in that perspective. So learning can happen in many different ways. Social support systems also help us to think. Again, thinking is very important because it causes us, if you will, to have to really focus on what our values are, what our thoughts are, and helps us to explore those as well as to express those. Another characteristic is a social support system helps me to grow. And even if I, again, am not sure what that means, again, it can help me to grow in my relationships. It could help me to grow in terms of how I feel about myself. It could help me to grow in terms of how I work or interact with the bigger community. So again, there's a lot of different ways that that could be interpreted. The social support system often provides us an opportunity to have someone to do things with, whether we're doing those things in our own house, whether we're doing them at someone else's house, whether we're going out in the community. The important thing is that we have a person, a body that we can go with whom we feel good with. Oftentimes, a social support system is also someone that we travel with, whether that is, again, going to the grocery store or whether it's taking a more extensive road trip or even a planned trip, say, on a vacation. Social support systems also provide people that we have somebody to cry with, somebody that we can share our sorrow and our grief. So again, that helps us to have a place where we can go to get those kinds of supports. Now, one of the things that happens is that sometimes we're not really sure what a support system is. So some people think that supports are being able to just say, you'll be fine, everything will work out, don't worry about it, we'll get it taken care of. And it's not a big deal, kind of discounting, if you will, the situation with the intent of really moving on and not necessarily engaging or being a part of that support system. If you have a good support system, what you're starting to see is these other types of comments. So somebody says in an empathetic way, I'm sure that is difficult. People offer to help. People thank you or you thank them. They validate your feelings and make sure that you are again regarded as an individual who has value, who brings important things to the world. And again, that's regardless of how old you are. That's regardless of how young you are, regardless of how frail you might be. Support also offers to be there for you. They are there when you need them. You feel like you can call on them in case you have a specific need. Another verbalization, if you will, in terms of support is somebody saying, I can't imagine how that feels. Again, we can frequently be empathetic to an individual and we can try to understand how they feel, but we are never going to be able to get into their mind and their feelings. So the best we can do is to try to, again, express support, but not feel like we are taking it over. Sometimes support is just giving people a hug, whether they ask for it or not. Again, a lot of people feel very deprived, if you will, of physical touch. We in this community and in this society do not spend a lot of time touching. That is often seen as a taboo. We are just coming out of all of the COVID experience in which touching was very discouraged, especially in the early days because we were not sure how the virus was being transmitted. Another empathetic comment that you might hear in terms of support is you are not alone. Again, we try to make sure that people know that they are supported in what they are feeling. Social support can also be very important if we are ill. So it plays a similar kind of role in terms of our recovery or how we manage and cope with our illness. So this particular graphic is based on a number of different studies, but one is that we know that if family members are around, that the recovery rates, if somebody is sick, is much quicker than if the individual is left there alone. It's one of the reasons why we try to also encourage a lot of visitation in assisted living and nursing homes, again, because having people close helps us to manage that. If people feel like they belong, which a social support system is designed to do and what it does for us, then that also influences how we feel. Oftentimes, people who have a sense of belonging complain less, they identify less, their different maladies, their different pains, because they're focused on other things. Social support also gives us better health outcomes, if you will, for people who are not isolated. So isolation can really, again, contribute negatively. So social support can help with that. PTSD is also another thing that we have seen reduced exacerbations if people have a good social support system. Other people also identify that their performance is basically better if we have adequate stress relieving features. So having, again, that support system can help us a lot. Another thing to know is that if you have a social support system, again, it could be family, but it could not be. What it gives you is the mental assurance that you are not alone. And it can be both mental or emotional, as well as resource-based. So most of us tend to think oftentimes of social support as more in the emotional well-being realm than we do in terms of the physical. But it can meet our needs in both domains. Social support also gives us the sense that if we needed to call someone, we had the ability to do that. A few years ago, a friend of mine called me and said, I just realized, and she doesn't have any children, she has no nieces and nephews. She's an only child. And she said, I just realized if my husband couldn't take care of me or wasn't there, I would have no one to turn to. And she said, will you always be there for me? And she promptly filled out her medical and financial power of attorney and brought them over to my house. Again, looking and knowing now that should she get in that situation, she has someone who can help and come to her rescue. Again, in terms of just knowing that you are not alone, just again, having that sense that maybe somebody isn't really going to help you, but in the back of my mind, I know that if I need help, as my friend just did, she can call me and I will help her. Social support also gives us an opportunity to talk about what has been going on in our lives, whether it's a tough day at work, whether it's been a challenging visit to the doctor, whether the program that we were volunteering in was especially stressful today. Whatever it is, it gives us an opportunity to share that. I know some people in my group of acquaintances and friends and family where the adult working child calls their father every single day on the way home from work. It's their alone time, if you will. He has about a 30-minute commute. And so he and his son or his dad talk every single day. A social support system also gives us, or means we have someone that we can share things with. Usually when we're sharing good news, but sometimes we share bad news as well. So how do you go about creating a social support system? Basically, you want to identify with people who are going to acknowledge your goals, dreams, and passions, whatever it is, and that they will share those not only with you, but they have similar types of interests and goals that they want to accomplish. Someone in your social support system should also be genuine, or sometimes we use the word authentic. Again, you want people who really mean what they say. These are people who truly have your best interest at heart and not somebody who is just taking advantage of the moment. Definitely, as you are creating this support system, it may only be one person, it may be more than one person, but you want those people who share your goals and your dreams and your passions to be part of that social support system or that network. So in terms of increasing your social support system, you basically have to accept the support in times of stress. Don't isolate. If you are having a really difficult time, or if you're not, and maybe the other person is just reaching out, and they may not be having a difficult time, but they want to connect. They want to be with you. And so you need to make sure that if people reach out to you, that you reciprocate that. Now, I personally am in a little bit of a difficult situation right now. I have a half a dozen people who would love to get together, but I am pretty much going to be out of town for the next 30 days. And so setting up anything at the moment beyond a short phone call is not working very well. But I tend to be one of these people who see individuals a lot, hook up with people, take them out for coffee just because. In terms of the social support system, though, you also need to recognize that you can't do everything. So you're not good at everything, although some of us think we are. We'd like to believe that we are, and that gives us a sense of confidence and self-identity and self-worth. But we also have to realize that we can't be everything to everyone. And so sometimes people in our support system will ask for things that we are not able to give. But as I said a moment ago, when somebody asks you for support, you need to stop and reciprocate and give that. Because again, that is what creates the relationship. And the next time you need support or assistance, they will be there for you. If you are looking in terms of increasing your support system, another thing to look at is, as I said a few minutes ago, joining with people who are like-minded. Sometimes we think about this in terms of support groups. So say somebody has diabetes, so they might hook up with a diabetic support group. Or you have grandparents who are raising grandchildren, and they may hook up with other grandparents who are raising grandchildren. Or you have people who enjoy playing softball, and so they will hook up with people who play softball. The other thing that you need to look at in terms of your social support system is finding people who are mature and stable, who can empathize with you, but they need to be a trusted ally. They need to be somebody that you know you can count on at that point in time when you need them, and they can be counted on. They can count on you when you need them. The literature suggests that family support is definitely the strongest social support. So we all live, whether we want to or not, in some variation of a family, friend, or neighbor network. Whether we know who these people are, whether we interact with them, whether we talk to them, we're all in this big network. Out of that network, then, we go to the second column of boxes, and that is where most of our support comes from. It comes from families, friends, or neighbors. And as you can see in this particular graph, none of those get more weight over the other. So we don't necessarily always believe that family support is the only place to get support. You could get it from friends and neighbors. What we do know is that if we have some level of support, then that basically leads to self-efficacy. That leads us to identify and be able to respond and be a part of then this support network. Having a support system can also promote better health, which also then results in healthier aging. We do know from the literature that support from families does have the strongest effect on healthy behavior, self-efficacy, and healthy aging. But even if you never married, or you are divorced or widowed and you are still single, it's important to know that you still can gain a lot of support from family. So single individuals tend to basically continue to stay in touch with their nuclear family, with their siblings, with their parents, other neighborhoods, cousins, aunts, uncles, for a tighter, if you will, or more close relationship than maybe somebody who is in a marital relationship or in just a romantic relationship where two people have chosen to live together. So oftentimes marriage is another way that single relationships do move on. Single relationships increase social connections for both men and women. So sometimes we see men who will say, I don't have any friends, I don't need any friends, I don't this, that, or the other thing. But men benefit as much as women from having a social support system. What's most important is it a positive relationship? And if you are single, what do those social ties look like? And social ties refers to how many people do you have in that network. And if you go back a couple of slides when we were looking at who all or what all is involved in a social network, even if you're single, you can have all of those things. So single individuals sometimes do have a greater involvement in the community because they do not have maybe as many commitments to the family or to the home or to a single individual. So in this particular slide, we're going to look a little bit at stress, and social support is probably the strongest variable, if you will, to helping us to cope with stress. One of the things to not kid yourself about is that we all experience stress. The question is, how much stress is it, and how do we respond to it? People with a strong social support system usually are able to look at a stressful situation with more hope and optimism. And oftentimes they have a more positive outlook and more positive mental health toward whatever it is that has caused us the stress. So again, social supports can really be a positive thing as we go through everyday life. Social support in terms of coping is really related to how we approach things from an emotional perspective. Our emotions are oftentimes what causes stress because we lose the ability, if you will, or we don't stop and think about what happens when something may present as a problem or a concern. So then we respond, if you will, with way more drama, way more emotion than maybe that particular situation even merited or required. So a social support system can help us to, if we get into that kind of a situation where we're over dramatic, we're overthinking it, we're overly concerned, the social support system can basically then help us to reduce that stress and to come back to a more normal state where we are thinking a little bit more rationally. Social support could also be an experience of being part of a network in which we really do have that mutual respect. We have mutual assistance, and we know that we are going to provide support to that person as well. This is a little exercise which I thought might be of interest to all of us. So, what kind of perceived social support do we have? And research again suggests that even if we don't have as much social support as we think we have, it is still associated with lower levels of depression and anxiety. So if we look at this little chart, and if you'll take a few moments and you'll just read a couple of the questions and try to see where do you fit on this scale. So do you very strongly agree, strongly, mildly, you're neutral about it, you are mildly disagree, or you strongly disagree. And so again, this just kind of starts to try to summarize the social network, but what it tries to figure out is, do I really have the social network I thought I did? So is there someone there when you need them? Are you able to call someone? On the flip side of that is when you have something really fun that you are happy about, or that you're really, really sad about, do you have someone that you can call? Do you have kind of a funny feeling about your family? The word that is operative in this next one says, my family really tries to help me. Again, this is not necessarily that they do help, but that they try to help. So does that mean you have barriers? Does that mean that they are helping and you are not reading it as help? So again, some of this is a little bit of self-analysis. The next question says, I get emotional help and support that I need from my family. Again, do you always get what you need? Do you always provide for them what they need? Is there someone in your life who can bring comfort to you? Is it a spouse? Is it a really close neighbor? Is it a friend from a social group? Is it a child, a grandchild? Again, the next one, number 6, says, my friends really try to help me. Again, really try is pretty operative here, because do they help? Do they think they're helping? Do they want to help? Do you want them to help? All of that goes into what your social support looks like and whether and how accepting you are of it. Do you have family or friends that you can count on when something goes wrong or when you have problems? And would you agree or disagree, and at what level? Is there someone in your life, number 10, who really cares about your feelings? And then 11 and 12 really look at, is your family willing to help you make decisions? And do you feel like you have friends that you can talk things over with? Sometimes friends are easier than family, or you can bounce the idea off of them and then figure out how it is you're going to respond, and then share it with family and friends. Sometimes stressful situations are easier once you figure out what your response is going to be, rather than putting it out in the open before everybody. And then a lot of people react either positively or negatively, and you have all of that you need to process and respond to. So the benefits of a healthy relationship are that you will have less stress, especially if you are in some kind of committed relationship. There's, again, research that suggests that if you are in some type of a relationship that is not stressful, then you produce what's called less cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And the more stress hormones that you produce in your body, the more likely you are and susceptible to some type of chronic disease. Emotional support goes a long way, especially if you are sick, if you are healing, if you are not in a good place at the moment. You might be suffering from grief, you might be suffering from loss. So there could be any number of things that have happened, and just knowing that you have the emotional support to go forward is, again, very helpful. If you engage in healthy behaviors, and any of you who have ever been in caregiving situations where you have cared either for adult parents or a disabled child, or you have been a parent with young children that you are responsible for, we all have been, for the last 40 to 50 years, really encouraged to eat, exercise, and sleep. And if you have someone that you can do that with, it makes it, again, a little bit easier. Healthy relationships also give you purpose. They give you a reason to get up in the morning. They give you a reason to accomplish your goals. And it gives you a reason to say, I accomplished this. And we all get good feelings when we know that we did something we set out to do and wanted to accomplish. Social supports or social ties are also, as I said earlier, they can add to longevity. You don't have to have a very complex or complicated social support system. One good friend can help you walk through stress and anxiety, sometimes easier than having a whole bunch of friends that you need to react and respond to. Other people would prefer to have more than one. And if that is what works for them, then we should all respect that. So it's also important to know that support systems are going to change. So in conclusion, I'd like to leave you with this quote. Some people are going to leave, but that's not the end of your story. That's the end of their part in your story. So with that, I'm going to give you a very brief overview. Many of you already know about the society programs. Some of you may be joining us for the first time. So we do have grants. We have new money coming July 1 for vision, hearing, and dental services. If you have questions, you can certainly call and get these specifics. You do have to be 60 and over. If we approve you for eyeglasses, hearing aids, or dental services, the services that we approve are paid at 100%. We have a telephone buddy program. If any of you either want a telephone buddy to have someone call you, or you would like to be a telephone buddy, please let us know, and we are actively placing people. We have an advanced care planning program. We have an extensive toolkit on our website as well as on our YouTube channel. We also do a number of advanced care planning workshops over the year as we do this aging in place, so feel free to join us. We provide counseling and referral, a lot of that on public benefit counseling and long-term care. We are doing some work in the area of multi-generational family supports. And currently at the moment, we have 2 videos that have been translated into Spanish. They're also available in English on multi-generational issues and concerns. We also issued a report last fall, which is on our website, and we're going to be doing some work in the area of helping people apply for food stamps, Medicaid, problems with taxes, and caregiving. So look for that to come. At Christmas time and the holidays, we always do around 350 holiday baskets. If you would either like to deliver, contribute, or you know someone who could benefit from a basket, please watch our newsletter and submit an application. Other programs that we do is we just recently finished the Salute to Seniors. We are posting this week on our website the how-to sessions and the tips that were shared there, as well as several of the other programs. We'll be doing Medicare Monday in the fall. This is a series of educational programs on 2024 changes in Medicare, as well as the opportunity for individual counseling, for enrollment questions, prescription drug questions. So if you have any questions on that, feel free to contact us and look for more information starting October the 16th. Our Housing Advocacy Coalition is going to be doing an Aging in Place workshop on August the 17th. More information will be forthcoming, but our goal basically is to provide an opportunity for all of you to join us in person. And we want this to be extremely interactive. So we're bringing together a number of different panels and resources for people to be able to ask questions. So pretty much the format of the event is going to be, if you have questions around aging in place, that you can ask those at the different panels. We do a lot of consumer and professional training, again, around a variety of topics. So if you have a need for that, let us know. We haven't done much for the last couple of weeks around public policy, although I will be going to Washington, D.C. in a couple of weeks. So if anybody has any concerns about Medicare, that will be my primary topic, although I hope to be able to take up a little bit on SNAP benefits with some of our congressional delegation, as well as if I have an opportunity to talk about funding for the Older Americans Act. And our other service is that we are updating our Senior Resource Guidebook. And that is a print copy that's distributed through libraries. And then our Housing and Home Care Locator is available online. It's searchable and interactive. I would like to encourage you to take the survey at the end So if you take again a few moments and fill that out, there's 3 or 4 questions. As I said earlier, that is